Now, I'm always wary about any sort of blog or publishing company that's trying to do real content, not just content farms, and that raises any venture capital, much less $12 million. I mean, TechCrunch, we killed our category. We have more than double your traffic. And, you know, we weren't a venture style return. I mean, we didn't raise money, so it worked out okay. You know, Huffington Post, you know, the king sort of this whole category, you know, they got, you know, a couple $100 million, but you know, that was a huge revenue multiple. I mean, you could argue, you know, that was a very heady deal. I mean, you know, there just aren't very many signs of blogs that, you know, it's such a slog. It's so hard to build.
Right. Real
content is so expensive. I mean, do the economics of this business work?
They do because of the category. It really is one of the real high-value advertising categories, and you don't need the tens of millions of users. I mean, the biggest players in the category, the Kelley Blue Books and the Edmunds, if you look at ComScore any given month, it can be 6 to 9 million uniques. What's important, though, is it can't just be a flat blog. It can't just be, as you said earlier, a fanboy or someone like that just kind of ranting about a Mustang or putting up pretty pictures of people and things like that. It has to have that fundamental layer under it of all those pages that really the advertisers are interested in, frankly. The specs of a car, the photos of a car, the good reviews of a car. That's where the advertisers will get a level of comfort. And, you know, to your point earlier, we've raised some money, and I'd say we're about 3 to 4 months from profitability. I don't think, you know, obviously it's not a social network and you're not going to see high and to the right that way. But through a pretty steady, methodical process, we've gotten to the point where we're breaking even pretty soon. And with some cash left over, so that frees us up to do some fun things. And I think that's probably one difference, is it's been a little bit of a 2-year approach as opposed to just we're going to knock it out of the park in 6 months. I will say, a tough time to start a company in autos, advertising, in kind of the 08, 09 timeframe.
When every auto dealer is going out of business.
Yeah, and if you think about it, there were 16 to 17 million cars sold in the U.S. between 2000 each year and 2007. And in 2009, that was 10.5 million. So it just collapsed. In a way, certainly glass half full, but in a way it was great for us because you can build a company at that point. We didn't have any of the legacy kind of law of big numbers to fight. We were able to build great content operations and really focus on our platform. And we had some patient investors. I mean, Excel and Greylock have been great. Just saying, guys, let's not panic, keep your eye on the ball. And I think 2011 is kind of that year where we finally have the traffic and the products where we want it to be.
Do you have an e-commerce strategy? I mean, it seems like you're adding all this value-added stuff. I mean, it seems like there'd be a natural tie-in with e-commerce.
Yeah, so the biggest areas of, you know, advertising in here, obviously CPM, graphical, and that remains our biggest area of focus. But there is a big component of lead generation in autos. Wouldn't say it's been an industry that's been innovated in much in the last 10 years. But you'd be amazed when folks are at when users are at our site, they really are getting close to pulling the trigger on buying a car, and it's incredibly valuable for the advertisers to communicate with them at that point. So the graphical works, but also the lead generation works, and those are our 2 areas of focus.
Why has this vertical been so ignored? I mean, we talked about with Bleacher Report CEO how much sports really hasn't been innovated on since the first wave, but you guys didn't even build huge properties in the first wave.
Right, and I think that if you look at the largest properties out there, some of the names, the portals have done it with, they've put some verticals together, obviously in autos, and then the Kelley Blue Books and the Edmunds. And like I said, I mean, if you look at their usage, it is 6 to 9 million per ComScore. A lot of that is because that's how many people are looking for cars at any given time. There is kind of a natural, well, I would say that that's how many are looking in a 3 to 6 month period of time. Obviously, the category is huge when you look at forums and people who are passionate.
So it's not necessarily you're probably your most valuable user is not a user who's coming every day.
That's right,
for years.
because you know they're buying cars once every 5 or 6 years, and so they're not going to be in there looking at the specs and trim of a car they want to buy in 3 months. That's obviously not happening. What is happening though is increasingly, and this is the needle we're threading, is a lot of our segments that we're focusing on, whether it's green or tech or family, users are coming in without just a 3-year horizon or a 3-month horizon. They're coming in looking for a year at a car and really taking time, because it is the second biggest purchase usually people make next to their house. So it's a real considered purchase. And the audience we're building, particularly in some of these segments, the advertisers are really interested in talking to them.
Yeah, we're putting away money for our Tesla Model S. When is this coming out? You're the car guy. Do you know?
I don't. I mean, you know, you can see the press releases, and it could be a year, it could be 2.
That date seems to keep moving.
Yeah, my midlife crisis is probably an R8, an Audi R8, but I don't see it happening anytime soon. With 3 kids, we're more on the kind of SUV and crossover right now.
See, I'm just pregnant with my first kid now, so I can be delusional.
So you ought to have some fun for the next couple of years, because I'll tell you, you're going to look at SUVs and crossovers at one point.
See, we have an SUV now. We're doing it in reverse. We had an SUV when we were childless.
Keep it and let it get just completely beaten up, because you're not going to want to see what the kids can do to these cars and how quickly they can do it. So.
All right, what car do you drive?
Well, right now we have a Chevy Trailblazer and an Audi all-road Quattro. So it's been around we've had these cars for 5 and 6 years. So we're getting ready to pull the trigger as well.
What's your fantasy car?
So it is the Audi R8. Just 180 grand's a little bit pricey right now, as you pointed out some of our numbers. Yeah. But I think that for us, with the kids, we are going to go ahead and pull the trigger on some SUV or a crossover pretty soon. So, but the dream is clearly the Audi.
Right, you got to have dreams. We all got to have dreams.
We got to have dreams, and I said, I'm 43. The midlife crisis has got to be coming at one point.
So. It's got to come soon.
It's got to kick in.
Well, fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.